For millennia, metalheads have debated, fought, read over, and generally lost their collective minds over one question. Are Ghost actually a metal band? I mean, debating over whether some random genre is metal has been a thing forever, dating back to the 70s after metal really started gaining traction. I actually had my uncle, who has mostly fantastic music taste, tell me that everything after Black Sabbath's first album isn't actually metal, and that's the only good metal album ever. Oh, bless his soul. That's a little hyperbolic of an example and definitely doesn't include most metalheads as of today, but the point stands nonetheless. Today's debate over what is truly metal revolves around metal subgenres that incorporated genres of other music into their sound. Mostly when it comes to metalcore and deathcore, which have drawn the criticism of, I guess, quote-unquote true metalheads, since the both of these first came into the scene in the late 90s and early 2000s respectively. And this includes criticism infamously from yours truly. Any criticism against either of these genres brings the ire of their incredibly defensive fans. Just check out any of my videos about any deathcore band or the genre deathcore itself, and you'll see any slight criticisms, even when I compliment the music, results in hordes of their fans coming to their defense in droves. And honestly, Ghost is no different. I mean, all you need to do is check the comment section of my Impera review to see how split the metal community is on this band. And if you dare call them metal at all. But today, we end this debate once and for all by answering the question, are Ghost actually metal? But we can't make progress without first providing a solid definition of metal. And for that, we will go to the ultimate trustworthy source of information on the net, Wikipedia. Here it states, heavy metal is traditionally characterized by loud, distorted guitars, emphatic rhythms, dense bass and drum sound, and vigorous vocals. Heavy metal subgenres variously emphasize, alter, or omit one or more of these attributes. As well, from a New York Times critic, in the taxonomy of popular music, heavy metal is a major subspecies of hard rock, the breed with less syncopation, less blues, more showmanship, and more brute force. Alright, so I think that's a pretty fair definition of what metal is. I think a vast majority of us can agree on that. And if you don't agree with that, man, I don't know what to do with you. But Ghost's detractors often refer to them as more of pop rock or hard rock. Alright, fair enough. At least you can label them as something as opposed to just not metal. Well, let's have a look at those definitions. First up is hard rock. Hard rock, or heavy rock, is a loosely defined subgenre of rock music typified by heavy use of aggressive vocals, distorted electric guitars, bass guitar, and drums, sometimes accompanied with keyboard. You see, with this definition, it's a little bit tough. I mean, what truly is the dividing factor between hard rock and metal? Is it the virtuosity? Is it the intensity? It's hard to say where hard rock ends and standard heavy metal begins. So for today's topic, let's say that metal has much more of a virtuosity element than hard rock. And that's the distinguishing factor. What about pop rock? That's another thing that detractors of Ghost sound often refer to them as. So how do we define such a genre that incorporates two enormous other genres of music, being pop and rock? It's tough, but we can use the same source as the others to extrapolate what we may find as a comfortable definition of pop rock. Pop rock is a rock music genre with a greater emphasis on professional songwriting and recording craft, and less emphasis on attitude. It may be viewed as a distinctive genre field rather than music that overlaps with pop and rock. The detractors of pop rock often deride it as a slick commercial product and less authentic than rock music. Alright, we have our parameters, we have our definitions, but we need to nail down one more thing that's almost as important as their music, and that would be their overall look and vibe. And this is where the argument for Ghost being metal is typically the strongest. Some of their live performances resemble that of some of metal's most notorious groups, namely Behemoth. Tobias's onstage persona and garb is definitely similar to Nurgle's and the others in Behemoth, and I don't think this was intentional, but it was definitely noticeable. Look at the makeup and garb that Tobias wears on stage, not to mention the nameless ghouls that accompany him. And while the nameless ghouls look incredibly unique, Tobias's image is very reminiscent of many black metal performers, especially the makeup, of course. And many of these incarnations of Papa Emeritus are pure evil. In an interview with Noisy.com, a nameless ghoul had this to say about their looks.
By the old criteria of what's black metal, we are a black metal band. But I guess it doesn't really apply to the norm of today's rules.
Ghost's whole shtick is to ooze a satanic vibe, and they do that better than a lot of black metal bands even. You look at these guys and their vibe and their look and you think metal. It's undeniable. Of course, image isn't everything in metal, but when we look to the past, we can see how important image truly is. Even today, metalheads can tell on looks alone which bands are death metal and which bands are deathcore, for instance. Image is important, even to the point where gatekeepers from a specific genre will shut bands out of that genre just because they don't fit the image. And this isn't really an issue that other genres like rock or pop or even hip hop struggle with. So when it comes to looks, Ghost are undeniably metal, and I'll fight that to the death. If you have any counterpoints to those arguments, let me know in the public square down below, because I'm always open to having my mind changed. But infinitely more important than looks is sound. So do they sound metal? And that's where this gets admittedly tough. In my review of Ghost's latest album, I said that Ghost was definitely metal, and I stand by that distinction. I think Ghost are pretty damn metal. Let's take a quick listen to some banger phrasing that complements my comments. I could go on forever through their discography, showing you from their phrasing to their drum patterns to their bass lines why everything about them is metal. And what about Tobias's previous band, Repugnant? That's straight death metal pulled from the early 90s, and there's no way his experience in that band didn't contribute to how he writes for Ghost. And it's well known that Tobias is a true metal soldier, often citing bands like Metallica and Iron Maiden as huge influences. Another nameless ghoul even had this to say about the band regarding their influences. Everything ranging from classic rock to extreme underground metal of the 80s to film scores to the grandeur of emotional harmonic music. The Swedish and Scandinavian black metal movement of the early 90s plays a major role in our act, and each and every member of us comes from a metal background. Even their tuning, which is in D standard most of the time, is something you really only see in metal. It's used sparingly in blues and classical guitar, and I've even heard Nickelback use it once or twice, but honestly I think Nickelback could be pretty metal at times. I stand by it, f***ing fight me. But Ghost's use of D standard is a strong argument in the direction of them being a metal band more so than people may notice. Not a lot, if any, really pop artists or rock musicians use D standard. But the question we're trying to answer here is, are Ghost actually metal? This implies that there are reasons to believe they aren't a metal band. Okay, fair enough. For the sake of keeping my integrity intact, I will attempt to steelman the argument that they aren't and argue against the theory that they are metal. And truly, honestly, it's not a hard argument to make. They have tons of tunes that are super poppy and aren't metal. Let's be real, all their music is surrounded by an obvious ether of 80s tinged pop, disco, and dance music. Let's take a listen to some of these notable tracks.
Just wanna be, I wanna be with you all night. It keeps on giving me. You never wanted to be over. You never wanted to reach out to the edge of time. While you say, baby, kiss the ghost.
Honestly, those are all some of my favorite Ghost tunes, and none of them are metal. It's like satanic pop music. And furthermore to this point, let's talk about some of the people that have added contributions alongside Tobias to Ghost music. Salem Al Fakir and Vincent Ponter have been frequents in the song credits on Ghost's last few albums, and those two have worked with vast scores of musicians like Avicii, Madonna, and Lady Gaga. Klaus Oland has written for Britney Spears, Jordan Sparks, and Keisha, Vanessa Hudgens, and Swedish House Mafia. And what about Sarah Hudson? She written and collaborated with Nicki Minaj and Katy Perry and Dua Lipa, to name only a few. Even someone like Suzy Shin has made contributions to ghost music, adding to her musical resume that also includes Panic at the Disco, Fall Out Boy, and Weezer. All of those people previously mentioned have added to Ghost's music in some way, shape, or form, whether it's small or large. And in all of those cases, Ghost is the only thing resembling metal that any of these people have ever worked with. And all of those tracks that I described earlier as not being metal all have writing credits from at least one of these people previously mentioned. In that interview of a nameless ghoul that I showed you earlier, well, let's play the full clip.
A lot of people, they automatically assume that our main influences are like, you know, Witchfinder General and Pentagram. And we have a liking for bands like that. Obviously, they have some sort of influence on us personally, but the idea with the whole concept was probably more influenced by the Doors. So it's basically the mixture of pop music and death metal. Ghost. Yes, we like Beach Boys. Yes, the Pet Sounds album has a fantastic melody mixed between sunshine and complete dystopic hell.
And even more so, Tobias has often stated that some of his biggest influences, besides Metallica and Iron Maiden, are bands like Blue Oyster Cult and Kiss and Alice Cooper, and that is definitely apparent in this music. And in an interview with Hellbound.com, another nameless ghoul stated, "We never set out to be a metal band. For us, it's not an issue. All of us come from a metal background, our upbringings are rooted in metal, but we're open-minded." It's clear to me that Ghost and Tobias have so many different talented hands all over their music, and that's what creates the awesome music that we have grown to love. So, with all that being said, are Ghost a metal band? Yeah! No. It's so incredibly clear to me that Ghost embodied the essence and the sound of metal. Everything from their riffs and their tuning, their appearance and their songwriting and their persona screams metal. Sometimes I listen to Ghost and think these guys are the most fucking metal band on the entire planet. But it's clear to me that there's so much more to Ghost's music than the metal aspect. It's so clear to me, everything from the words of the band members to the writing of the music to the people that contribute to the writing of the music, that Ghost isn't metal. So, where does that leave us? Well, it's clear that Ghost are metal, but it's also clear that there's so many other influences that make them not metal. Things that make them way more than metal. But in making them way more than metal, that actually makes them as metal as can be. They're an amalgamation of influences that stretch beyond just a simple genre classification. Their 80s dance and disco essence, their use of keyboards, trumpets, and pop phrasing that make you want to move and bang your head at the same time is unique in ways that can't be found in metal or outside of metal. To me, there's nothing more metal than incorporating different genres from around the spectrum of music and putting that into metal. And that's what makes metal so great, is its ability to cross genres, incorporate other genres, and expand its sound. It has an ability to define and reach higher than simple genre specifications. Though sometimes, admittedly, that we metalheads get too bogged down in those specific classifications to realize that we're actually transcending those things. And Ghost personifies this transcending of genres more so than any other band in the scene today. So finally, yes, Ghost are definitely metal, it's so clear, but they're more than metal. They're so much more than metal, and that makes them metal. So I'm going around in circles here. Ghost are a metal band, but they're also not a metal band. So that's the final word on this topic. Everyone, just enjoy Ghost's music and define it however you feel it should be defined. Get fucking wrecked, elitists. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this answered some questions that you have about Ghost's music. It's a hard question to answer, and I hope this really helped you get your mind around what you think of Ghost's music and how you want to define Ghost's music. Let me know what you think down below about Ghost, their sound, and how you want to define it. And thank you so much again for watching. We'll see you in the next episode of the heaviest show in the universe. Of course, long live metal.